Business, a person's occupation, profession, or trade. Connection, a relationship in which a person or idea is linked or associated with something else. Welcome to Business Connection. Each week, our program will offer inspiration to navigate the business world. Information you can use to succeed in any field. And we will help you focus on your goals. Join us now for Business Connection with your host, B.C. Clark.
Welcome to the Business Connection. I'm your host, B.C. Clark. As you know, we interview business owners across the state. And today, I'm so grateful to have Susan Runnels. And Susan, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for inviting me. I appreciate it.
I'm so glad you're here. So we're going to talk a little bit about, let's talk about Susan, kind of talk about, whatever. And then we'll get into the business side of things. I like to find out a little bit about, who you are, and I like the audience to kind of know who you are.
Appreciate that. So. Yeah. Well, so let's see, where do I start? I am 55 years old, so I've hit that.
I never start with that, no.
Sorry. And the reason why I say that is because I've worked really hard to really reinvent myself again.
Yes.
And so when you step into that middle age, hitting that menopause,
yes.
Your life just changes. It just changes. I mean, it changes with your, physically, emotionally.
Yes.
And I think it is probably the biggest milestone a woman can go through.
Other than having a child.
Yeah, exactly. Well, exactly. But this has to do with us. Having a child has to do,
multiple.
It is. And for me, so I raised 4 boys,
mm-hmm.
and very blessed and I loved being a mother. But it was more about them. And I was in a divorce situation, mm-hmm. and it was always about them. And I mean, I kept on track with, trying to eat healthy, what I thought was healthy, but in menopause it wasn't healthy. But it's just it's a change, mindset change, mm-hmm. when you definitely enter into your 50s, I would say.
Yeah. And, I think also, so isn't it harder to, because there's so much going on at that time, your hormones are going wacky.
Oh,
it's really hard to even stop and say, am I even eating? Sometimes you're either moving too fast or moving too slow. It is definitely a time for a woman to really stop and begin to listen at her body. And I think because we have so many things going on in our lives, we don't stop.
Yes.
And then I think that causes us to have a lot of anxiety during that time.
Absolutely. And there's also life can happen. So I had lost a job. I lost my mom to Alzheimer's. I was a caregiver. My dad is dealing with cancer right now. I, became an empty nester. I gained that menopause weight that you're like, no matter what you do, you can't get it off. But you can, because, and so
I can't wait for that part.
So I decided when my boys went to college, I'm like, you know what, I'm just gonna start just focusing on myself, because I realized I need to put more value on myself, on who is Susan. And I am a mom. I was a really good mom, but who am I outside of that? And so I spent a lot of time focusing on that and just kind of redefining my purpose on what I am supposed to be doing on this earth.
The power of
and
purpose.
It is the power of purpose. And I have a very strong faith, and I just dived into the Holy Spirit and Scripture, and I just really reinvented myself. And because of that, I did have a company a couple years ago, but COVID wiped it out, unfortunately.
Right. You weren't the only one. So.
Yes, I know. And that was your second season. And that was basically a company that really helped women understand what was going on in the menopause space and perimenopause. And fortunately, when I entered it, there wasn't a lot of information. But now there's a plethora of information.
Yeah, there is. There's quite a bit of information.
Which is really nice. So I decided to go deeper, and I decided to certify myself as a functional nutritionist. And it's been life-changing. I used their method and approach to really
come into yourself.
Come into myself. I managed my vulnerabilities in my body, which helped decrease inflammation. I lost that menopause belly fat.
You did.
am energetic. Weirdly, my hair is not graying as fast, which is just, you know, just like a lot of little things. I don't get that 3 o'clock fatigue crash, and it's all stems from nutrition and movement. With the number thing, valuing yourself.
Yes, I'm so happy that you're talking about this, because I think a lot of individuals that are our age or older or what have you, you know, they're out here in this world and things have changed so drastically, especially after COVID, that a lot of them are trying to find themselves right now.
Yes.
And some of them may be past menopause, some of them may be in menopause,
Yes.
but they're having anxieties of trying to connect back with society. So it's really important that I think a person, and you know, when I did The Power of Purpose, there was a lot of people that watched that. You would not believe how people start hitting my inbox.
I bet. Oh, I bet.
mean,
it's a big.
It was like so much, and then it really let me know that we all have that. I need to re-identify myself or find out who I am moment. And I remember for me, it was when I left corporate America, and I reinvented myself at that time.
Yeah.
That was a change, you know. And I think also too, being an empty nester, that is not easy, because a lot of them are in that space and they're trying to figure out what to do with their time now that they're not taking care of kids.
Yeah.
And that was a hard time for me as well. So you know, the compassion for that, I totally understand.
Well, every woman goes through it.
They do.
It's like
They really
time's
do.
not going to stop.
I don't know how people say, well, when you get 18, you're leaving the house. I'm like,
Like,
really?
oh. It's like, what?
They're not. They're not leaving my house at 18. They don't even know what they're doing at 18.
Yeah.
But I think that there's a time that they do leave, and then you have those anxieties, you know?
Yes.
Like, okay, because you don't feel yourself yet.
Yeah.
Because you haven't been yourself for, what, 20 years?
Yeah.
While you raise the kids.
It's foreign. It's a foreign space. And
It
how
is.
do you swim in water if you don't know how to swim?
And so I'm glad you're here, because
Yes.
there's a lot of people that'll be listening at this, and they'll say, oh, that makes so much sense. And then we'll contact you about AhAvah, you know, because maybe it is the eating that we're all doing, because people eat nervously, I do. And so,
I stress eat. I do.
yeah, and right, and when you have anxiety, what do? You're cramming stuff in your mouth,
Yeah.
which is not helping your body, and
Yeah.
it's not helping your brain either.
Yes.
So we need to know what are some of the things that we could do. So I want you to talk a little bit about AhAvah, because I think that is really what's holding a lot of us hostage.
Yes.
It's the way we're eating, and you know, and even though, you know, we value ourselves, there's parts of us that are not doing the right things.
Correct. Correct.
So we just need to how to put all that together, and when we have it all together, then it can work for us and not against us.
No, and it can. And when I entered the space, if I was going to talk about it, I'm like, I have to live it. Yeah. I have to walk my talk. So I spent about 2 years really redefining and reinventing myself. And you know, as I told you earlier, it's simple, but it's not easy, because it is hard work.
It's discipline.
It's discipline. Yeah. And a lot of that discipline, though, is found in valuing yourself or having a higher purpose to help you with that, whatever that higher purpose is to that individual, yeah. You know? And that's and you know, it's like, you just have to take that first step. So my first step was, okay, what do I need to value myself? And so I had a lot of affirmations. I said I really poured into the scripture,
Yes,
and that really helped me rise that level of creating a value outside of my kids.
Right.
I valued myself great as a mom, but
Sure.
as Susan, I really had to work on that. And then the pleaser. I was a big pleaser person, and it's like, stop. And that's another, if you find yourself pleasing, that's kind of a red flag of saying, okay, you need to step back and put some value on yourself. So you stop pleasing everybody else. And so when I really started doing that, I'm like, okay, so, and I didn't realize it, but I was looking at past pictures, and I wish I brought some, but there's a picture
I
of me.
remember something.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
I remember, and the thing is that to see you now, and all that you've been through, you know, and stuff with the, you know, family and things like that, Mom. I mean, you really look great.
Thank you.
You
I appreciate
really
that.
do. And I know you've worked on yourself. I mean, I could tell when I was like, because I did those, Susan.
Like, wait a minute, that person has an extra step.
Let me hurry up and go in.
Yeah.
But so I want to applaud you, number one.
Thank you.
For not going deeper into a slump of depression, but really stopping to say, who is Susan?
Yeah.
And I think we all have to get to that point.
Yeah.
Because if we don't, then that's what happens. People go into depression.
Yeah.
And you know, I think when I did the Power of Purpose, when did I do that? Was that like 5 years ago?
Oh my gosh, maybe three
Like
and a half.
3.5 years ago?
It was very powerful. I mean, your message was amazing.
And sometimes I have to, and I still do that, you know. But I want it because I think, to me, that was like the most powerful time that I did it.
Yes.
And I think sometimes it depends on where you are in your life,
Uh-huh.
that kind of how you bring things out.
Yes.
And I think that was where I was in my life at that time, which made that come out powerful because it was so honest. It was so it was
Real,
very genuine.
authentic, yes.
Yeah, I mean, it was. And so, but I've noticed that when I do it now, and probably because I'm in a different place now, I probably don't put the depth in it that I used to, and that's why I wanted to get that copy. But anyway, back to us as women and being in that second season, I think it's important for us to really look closer, and I didn't think about that till you said it today, is that we really have to look at, even though we value ourselves, but do we value what we're eating?
Yes, and that is a
big
big,
one.
I believe that is the catalyst to really understanding that will help your emotional state, that will help you just physically feel better. And if you physically feel better, you're gonna
Do better.
you're gonna do better.
Yeah.
You're gonna be positive about things. And so I did, so I went back to, and I got certified as a functional nutritionist. And I applied their methods, like I said earlier, and it's been life-changing for me on the physical and emotional.
Emotional.
Yes, and
You just look like a happier. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I
you're,
am.
You're so vibrant, so happy right now, and I'm glad. I'm glad, you know, because I was afraid actually. Because the last time I had actually seen you,
It's a while.
and it was a while ago, and it was so much happening.
yes,
That I was
life
like,
was.
I was trying to build myself up so when I saw you, I can build you
Aw,
up.
you're so
but you didn't
sweet.
need it.
You're so sweet.
You didn't need it though. So, so I know that this works. So talk more about AhAvah, because I think that there's a lot of people out there that even I'm sitting here now and saying, you know what, because I've been saying this for like the last month, I need to do something different.
Yeah.
You know, yes, I value myself. Yes, I have a lot of respect for myself. You know, I don't, and I feel whole within myself, but I know there's some things I could do better.
Yes, well,
You
and,
know what I mean?
and it's interesting because unfortunately our society goes for that quick fix,
Yeah.
right? We want to step into that quick fix. Why wouldn't we, right? But that's not going to work for
No.
80% of the people.
Exactly.
It's just not. And that's, and if anything I'm going to convey is, you know what, you're just going to have to step into a hard phase, hard work, discipline, if you really want to make physical changes. Because when we step into the menopause space, we've got a lot of inflammation going on, and if we don't control it, it's going to lead to osteoporosis, heart disease.
Everything.
And chronic conditions is just rampant in the United States.
It is,
And unfortunately, it comes from the food or how we're taught to eat. And a lot of times it's like, let's just eat on the quick. And the functional nutrition really focuses on your story. Every woman and her body has a story, and that is woven into how she presents herself in the world. And so the functional nutrition really takes that whole story, and it's like, okay, so let's take that, and then let's see, you know, what are your cravings? What are your, you know, what do we need to substitute, you know, nutrition with, you know, like let's get rid of refined sugars. Well,
Yes.
I have sugar cravings. Well, then let me give you a substitute to get you through that transition. And then we really dive down into the systems of the body. So is there a reason for the cravings? Is there something, you know, is there dopamine in your brain that's kind of going a little bit crazy? So how can we, you know,
Minimize
strengthen
that.
that?
Yeah.
And so we really dive into the systems of the body, and we take that time. So, you know, I mean, in the medical community is amazing, but it's very acute. You know, if you broke an arm, they fix it.
Right.
There's no space for them to take the time to fix chronic diseases,
Right.
inflammation. And unfortunately, as I said, when you step into that menopause, I mean, your
It just
body
happens.
fat composition moves to that middle, and now you've got this visceral fat, and it becomes a metabolic organ where it's shooting off negative hormones
Yeah.
and creating more inflammation, and calories in and calories out does not work anymore. The way you lived does not work before. I was pretty healthy with exercising and eating, but that was not working. I had to reshift it, and it took some time. to find my vulnerabilities on where I could really strengthen them within physically
yourself,
my body. Yeah. And I figured it out, but it takes detective work, and it does take work. But I really feel amazing. I really do.
It shows, and
thank you.
that's the best part about it. You know, when you can see that someone did it, and now they see, and it's not like it's somebody on TV.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, yeah.
Because you know they paid somebody to do that, and they never probably went through the whole thing. But I know you, and I've known you for a long time. So to hear you talk about it, and see, it makes logical sense to me because I'm left brain, you know. So I always look at everything logically anyway. But it makes sense to me that even at this time in our lives that we have to stop.
We have to stop.
Because we move in so many different directions, and a lot of times we don't have time to even think.
Yeah.
And so we forget about our value. We forget about that because over the past 20, 25 years when we've raised our kids, we had no value. Our kids were our value.
Yeah.
You know, make sure we dressed them right, make sure they had what they need, make sure they got to school, make sure they went to college. All that stuff was happening with us. We never stopped to think about, what do I need to do? What can I do?
Yes.
You know, and the thing about me, I kept replacing things with different work.
Yeah,
You
sure.
know, so I came from, you know, corporate, then I started a business, started a foundation. I haven't stopped, you know. And so when you say, you know, sometimes, and I'm saying to you, we need to stop. I didn't.
Yeah, and it's easy not to.
Because I retired and kept going.
Yeah, which, you're an amazing human being on this planet, affecting so many people's lives,
praise
BC.
God.
No,
I
you
give
really
him the
are.
glory.
Yeah, I mean, you really are, and it's definitely a gift on this earth from you. So we need to keep you around, so we can get your body, you know, and that's
I know other people feel this way too. That's why I say I wanted you to, you know, kind of tell us, because maybe there's a group of us who want to get together, and get involved and support and hold each other accountable.
Yes.
So that we can see each other growing and getting to that point of being disciplined, eating the right foods, and feeling much better.
Absolutely.
You know, as we grow.
And there are also, you know, and there's like, you know, little tips and hacks that you can, you know, help it, that people just don't know. It's not general knowledge. You have to research it. And it's amazing on how hard it is to figure out how your body works.
Yeah.
In a very holistic way. And food can be medicine. It really can. You just need to know how your body reacts to it.
Right.
I mean, it was interesting. So, and this was a big eye-opener for me. And I wasn't really noticing a couple years ago. My body was pretty inflamed. I was puffy. I was, you know, probably 8 to 10 pounds more than I wanted to be, but I was living the same lifestyle, and I'm like, it was working then, why isn't it working now? And I was very frustrated, but I didn't really realize it, because when you're living in it, you're like, oh, I forgot what it feels to feel good.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I forgot what that feels like. So, and I was grocery shopping, and I hadn't seen a friend of mine for maybe, you know, I don't know, a year plus. And she goes, oh my God, I don't recognize you. And I'm like,
I believe
have
it.
I changed that much? You know what I mean? I'm like,
You got to go look at pictures.
yeah, and I did. And I'm like, when I looked at those pictures, I was like, oh my gosh, I was really puffy and swollen and just inflamed. And then, and I never realized it physically, because you get used to it.
Yeah,
right?
It's just part of, you know, because I'm telling you, when I saw you, I was like, I had to do a double take, because I was like, that's not so. 20 years, I'm telling you.
Yeah.
20 years off your life.
Thank you. I feel very energetic, young, and it's not like life has not stopped throwing me punches, right?
Yeah, it's going.
I've learned to manage it, and a lot of my way I learned to manage it is through food, is through the nutrition.
I think a lot of us, because when you don't feel good, what do?
Eat. Oh, and I stress eat. But now if I stress eat, I make sure I have healthy stress eat food.
Yeah, because it is, you know, I was saying that I think it was last week we were talking about that. It's like, why do we go for the chocolate?
Yeah.
You know, and actually what I'm trying to do now is I go for cereal, like bran.
Yeah.
And I like the ones that have the almonds and all that stuff in it. And all I have to do is put milk on it. I don't have to add anything to it.
Yeah.
And it's fiber along with, you know, getting my sugar intake too. So I think that sometimes, yes, there are things that you can do, but I'd like to know more,
Yes.
you know, about that and more about the systems in your body.
Well, and I am very passionate about letting women know that you can do something about it, right?
Yeah.
And you can just at least step into the direction of understanding and really changing on how you feel physically, which I believe manifests emotionally.
Yes.
And I don't think we realize how bad, especially when we hit menopause, because it's a transition. I mean, we're expected, deal with it.
Yeah.
It's a hot flash. I had horrible night sweats. Holy moly. I mean, I was just like, it was crazy.
You know what's funny? I totally, I get it. But I was at a conference just recently, and there was a lady, she was fanning so hard, and she was doing, I knew what was happening to her. So I got some ice water, and I came and I said, if you just put this under your tongue, it'll help for a little bit, And I said, just suck on this. And she's like, you know what's happening? I said, yeah. I said, yeah, you're having an electric charge right now.
Oh, I like that.
She said, oh my God, you understand? I said, yeah, and it takes a few minutes. And really for me, I used to have to take my shoes off. If my feet were covered, I would burn up.
Oh, absolutely. It's crazy in what our body does.
I know.
But
I have to put my feet in ice water just to
cool down.
Yes.
Yes.
I mean, it was crazy. So when I saw her, I know she was suffering, and she was sweating. It was just one of those bad things, and she probably was just going through it. And when I got that crushed ice, with the water, and I said, just put some of that under your tongue, you'll be okay. And at the end of that, she said, oh my God, thank you so much. She said, I didn't know what to do, and I was afraid to get up, because she figured that, how when you're in that moment,
Yeah.
you think everybody's watching you, and you're fanning, and you're sweating.
Oh,
and
yeah.
you go through all this stuff, and people are like, what the hell's wrong with her? But, I knew what was happening.
Yeah.
So I think that we need to know more, and so I'm going to have you come to speak to a lot of us women.
I would appreciate
and talk
that.
about nutrition and how important that is for our bodies, especially as we get older.
Yes.
Because the older we get, then other things start breaking down. The sink stops.
Oh, and it
the
breaks
tubes
down.
blocks up.
Oh,
And all that kind of stuff. And so we really want to be able to be conscious of those systems within our bodies, so
Yes.
we can know some of the things we need to do
Absolutely.
in order to prepare or prevent some of the things
Look
that
at
could
you.
happen.
You're already like speaking the language. Dang.
I've been doing this for a long time, so
I know. You know how to
wisdom
listen.
and knowledge
Yeah.
and understanding.
Yeah.
I thank God for that every day.
Yeah.
And discernment.
Discernment. Yes, absolutely.
It's almost like you got to just. But AhAvah, and so in your training of others, do you talk more about the systems of the body, or and I'm sure you do.
Oh, sure.
But then you talk about what foods work best in those systems.
Yes.
And that's really good, because I think that's our problem. We don't know that the immune system needs this, and we don't want to do too much dairy because that affects the,
Yes.
brings in more mucus and all that stuff. But what about our spinal system? It's not the spinal system, but what's that
Well,
called?
there's a vagus nerve.
Vagus, okay.
You have your digestion tract, you have your endocrine
Yes.
system. And I think a lot is, there's an initial, consultation. It's like, okay, what are you struggling with? Tell me your story. Let me know what's going on, right?
Yes.
And the reason why I brought the value first, because the clients that I have been seeing, the women, is, because they've been empty nesters, we need to step into you now.
Yes.
And once we realize the power of you, then it's easy to put that discipline in. And it takes about, as I said, it probably takes about a month to really make these discipline changes.
Yes.
But you start feeling a difference. So I have several clients that are like, my joint pain, that's not, it doesn't hurt as much. This one client of mine goes, I think she was a week on just this plan we gave her, and she's like, I think I'm feeling more energy, but I don't know if it's in my head or not.
Because you know what? Yeah, because that's a real thing.
It is a real
You're trying to
thing.
figure it out. But usually they say it takes about I don't know if they said 3 weeks for your body to accept whatever you've
Yeah.
changed and doing, and so you have to at least get past that 3 weeks in order for your body to say, I guess she's doing this. But you can see some things changing, especially if you're in that where your body's all inflamed. You can see some changes in a week if you change stuff.
They're little changes. So I had like this little hump on my back, and it was like a fatty deposit. And I noticed, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's like gone away. It's no longer. And that was a small little change. But otherwise, I hadn't felt much before. But I'm like, oh, and that was a motivation thing. I'm like, oh, I'm doing something right. And then I realized I'll dye my hair once in a while, and I realized I don't have to dye it as much because the grays are slowing down. And it's just like little things like this. And then the big stuff come, right?
Yes.
The visceral fat starts disappearing in my belly.
That visceral fat is crazy.
That takes a while.
I'm sure.
That's not an easy fix.
Because it builds. I mean, it takes time and it builds layers at a time. And that's what's really...
it's frustrating. It is very frustrating.
It is. No matter what you do, I don't care how many sit-ups you do, it's not going away.
It's not.
And
it's based on nutrition to get rid of it. And there's scientific studies that show that. It's not calorie in, calorie out. It doesn't matter how much you exercise. It's solely based on nutrition to get rid of it.
I think so many people are glad to hear you say that.
Yeah.
Because they're like exercising every day and saying, nothing's happening. I'm trying to eat right, but nothing's happening. And so it's a frustration for them that, just forget it, I can't do it.
It is.
So I want them to know about this, because the more we learn about the internal systems in our bodies and how we need to feed them, it's going to change our whole life, emotional and physically. But it takes time, and we just need to be disciplined. You know, Susan, this has been amazing.
I'm so glad you reached out. I love this. I love meeting with you anyway. I think you're an amazing human being.
I can't wait to, so I'll just say this, that, and then I'm going to let the audience go because we're out of time. But anyway, I'm going to just say this. Thank you so much. This was, actually, I've learned tons just sitting right here. So I can't wait till you speak on the 17th.
Got it. Yep.
Of February.
Yes.
For the Metro Omaha Women's Business Center breakfast.
I'm looking forward to it.
You're our keynote speaker, and we're going to be talking about how to get rid of visceral fat, but basically how to calm down and find out who we are, and then learn what things we need to do to help our internal systems help us.
Exactly, and to just thrive in life with energy and a positive outlook, and really contribute to this earth on where we are supposed to.
Yes.
And that is,
I love that.
So let's get rid of all those barriers.
Yes, let's get rid of them all. Susan, thank you again for being here. I really appreciate this.
I appreciate it
And thank you for listening. If you have questions, Susan's business is
AhAvah. AhAvahFN.com. And it's
AhAvahFN.com.
It is.
And then is there a website? That's it?
Yep, that's it. AhAvah
AhAvahFN.com. All right.
AhAvahFN.com.
Yes, so you have that. Thank you again.
Thank
you. This was amazing. And thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time.
Thanks.